What the heck is going on with Etsy? That's a question I get asked a lot. I have a lot of sellers that are watching my videos on this channel and they're frustrated or they're not getting a lot of sales. And here's the deal. I hear you, okay? But we have to understand that Etsy is a platform, and it's a platform that might not be for everyone. It might not meet your goals, or it just might not be set up for you as a business person. So whenever I can see an opportunity or someone tells me about an opportunity, I want to look into it. I want to dig in, because just because one opportunity isn't there for you, another one might be. And actually, I have one today that I want to share with you that I just finished up an interview with a good friend of mine who opened my eyes to this opportunity. And it's crazy because it's a little bit full circle. Those of you that know, I came from the Amazon world. That's where I was known for doing private labeling and doing a lot of e-commerce stuff there. That's where I kind of cut my teeth, as they say. But today, I want to share with you a really, really cool opportunity that I haven't really looked into. But when he opened up his dashboard and showed me his numbers, boom, I was like, all right, I want to hear more. And I started to think of the people that asked me, Scott, what if I don't want to sell on Etsy? What if I don't want to do print on demand? Is there anything else that I can do? So that's what this interview is for. This is to serve you. If you are either on Etsy and you want to diversify, this is for you. If you're on Etsy and you're like, I don't want to sell on Etsy anymore, this is for you. Or if you just want to see other opportunities out there that you might be interested in, well, then it's for you as well. All right. So let's cut to the interview.
All right. I am about to share something with you that I wasn't really aware of until about a week, maybe a week and a half ago. It's a huge opportunity that I didn't even pay attention to. And the reason why I discovered this was because a buddy of mine who is actually doing it and actually has a team that's doing it and students that are doing it. But it's a way for us to get into e-commerce or leverage another platform. This is a big one, and be able to not just sell on Etsy, but also be able to leverage another massive marketplace. And this marketplace that I'm talking about is Amazon. And if any of you know my story, I used to sell on Amazon. I actually did very well on Amazon, sold millions on Amazon, and it was all private label, where you actually had to buy the inventory and then you had to, send it in and get it listed and all of that stuff. And I sold my last brand, and I was just like, I'm kind of done with that right now. I don't want to have to sit on $100,000, $200,000 worth of inventory. So that stuff always turned me off. Etsy, ooh, that was great. Like, this is awesome, and it still is. But the marketplace isn't that big, right? It's kind of small compared to Amazon. So what I decided to do is get my buddy on here, Steven Summers, by the way, and he's going to join us. And he's going to basically share everything he shared with me, because he opened his dashboard and I was blown away at the numbers. And let's just kind of pull him in here and let's get down to it. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Scott. It's a real pleasure to be here. I've been a huge fan of your channel for a long time, and obviously we've known each other a long time. So
Yeah.
only be here, get interviewed by you is a lovely, lovely 360, or I don't know, is it 360? I have no idea. Anyway, I'm delighted to be here. I can't wait to talk.
Yeah, no, this is going to be fun. I mean, you and I go way back in the day, and I don't want to say we were competitors, but yet you were tackling the international market, and I was over here in the U.S. and we were kind of in the same circle, but not. It's kind of weird, but anyway, here we are. We became friends, and we've been talking now for a couple of years. And I told you, I'm like, I'm just not really interested in the Amazon space right now. I'm kind of like, I want to break. And that's when we got into Etsy, and everyone here probably knows the story, but we don't need to get into that. But you know me, like, I'm all about, okay, I love e-commerce because everyone is buying products, right? And Amazon is a humongous, massive marketplace. And Etsy is actually really small. And actually, you shared a number with me. Do you have that number handy? How big, or what is the difference between Etsy and Amazon? What's that number?
Yeah, according to the research that I've done, Amazon is 233 times larger than Etsy in terms of revenue.
Mm,
Now, obviously, Amazon has a lot more categories, a lot more different kinds of products that it sells.
yeah.
Etsy's obviously you know a lot more about Etsy than I do, but yeah, it's a humongous market. It's a global market, and what we're talking about really is something that gets rid of a lot of the headaches people would associate with selling on Amazon. Like you obviously said, Scott. Just like myself, I was in the private label space for a long, long time. Although the model that we're going to talk about today is how I got my initial start. And I got into private label selling my own brands, and I got really swept up in that, as did you. And then a few years ago, I was reintroduced to this model from one of my business partners, Mike, who teaches the stuff with me now. And it was just incredible that I realized, wow, like there's all this opportunity actually on Amazon selling stuff that is already well-known brands. I just would have assumed looking at stuff something like that, there's no way that a beginner could sell a really well-known brand like Lego, for example. And the reality is that it is possible. And sometimes there are a couple of little extra steps that we've got to take in order to be able to do those and sell those. But my goal today, really speaking to you, was just to introduce what we've been doing. We've done over the last 2 years about $2.7 million in top line revenue. 15-20% of that would be profit in our pocket after all expenses. And over the years, multiple millions have been done with this model with us. And so, yeah, it's really exciting. It's something that I've seen a lot of people who had never been in e-commerce like do for the first time and get a lot of success. And I can certainly mention a little bit about that as well on the call. But really, it's just to educate and share. Look, Etsy is an awesome platform, but the more we can diversify ourselves and sell on multiple platforms, that's just a good thing. And even just within a platform, even being able to sell into multiple different categories, different kinds of products, the more diversified we are, the better. So yeah, I'm here to break it down, Scott, and answer any questions you have.
Yeah, no, and rather than going back and kind of listening to how did you get started and all of that stuff, like there's a whole bunch of interviews out there. I'm sure you can go listen to. I want to get to it. You know me. I just want to get to the meat of this thing, and I know my audience wants that, right? And it's like, so just share with everyone else that you've already shared it with me, but I have other questions too that I'm going to want to ask you. But like, how does the model work? Like, just kind of walk us through the model. Like if on like a 10,000 foot view, like what's the model look like? Why is it such a great opportunity? And why should people be even interested in doing this? Why should I be interested in doing this?
All right, cool, no problem. So first things first, the model then, it's simple. It's a well-known model. It's been around for a long time. Where at a basic level, we are going to purchase well-known branded items at wholesale prices, and we're then going to sell them on Amazon at their full retail price. So as I say, it's been around a long, long time. But where this model is really interesting for you listening today is that, as I said earlier on, you can sell very sometimes huge brands on Amazon, like Lego, for example, or Fisher Price, or many, many more that we've been involved in, as well as smaller, lesser known brands as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to Amazon. We're going to identify what brands are out there that are well known, and we can see multiple different sellers are selling those branded items. So we would look at Lego and we can see, well, there's all these different lines of Lego products on Amazon that are being sold by multiple different sellers at the same time. That kind of indicates to us there may be some opportunity. But what we're doing at a basic level is we're identifying Lego as a brand we can potentially sell. We're then going to Google and we're searching wholesale distributors, USA, wholesale distributors, New York, California, whatever the case may be. And we're looking to find what I just said, wholesale distributors, which are companies that will buy these branded items in large bulk. So they'll buy millions of dollars worth of inventory from, say, Lego, for example. And then they're authorized to be able to sell those to resellers. And so obviously, if you're a Walmart or whatever, you're going straight to a big brand like that and you're negotiating your own deal. But there's so many different mom and pop companies around the US and around multiple different countries, because this doesn't just work in the US, by the way, who will go to a wholesale distributor and they will actually buy those products directly from the distributor. And they will then be able to sell them at their own store, or in our case, sell them over on Amazon. And so what's good about it is the fact that we can sell well-known things that we can literally see with the software that we have, how many units are being sold, what kind of revenue is being generated from these items on a monthly basis. We're able to see the competition. We're even able to calculate roughly what our opportunity can look like in advance of even buying any inventory, which is a big deal. But I suppose the biggest thing about this model, which is so exciting, is that we're selling really well-known things. We're not trying to establish like a brand new brand. We're not importing stuff from China. We're not even going, oh, there's this Lego product not on Amazon. We're going to try and bring it to Amazon. No, we're literally seeing what is selling on Amazon right now from well-known brands. What can we get our hands on? What price can we get our hands on an ad? And then there's two things we need to do in order to be able to make sales and be able to qualify for sales. And so if you want, Scott, I could explain kind of how Amazon works then at a whole, like the fact there's only one listing of a product and everything. And that might kind of explain the second step, which is literally the fact that with this model, there's no real marketing involved. There's only like two things we have to do, and actually one thing we have to manage in order to qualify to make sales. I could get into that now if you like.
Yeah, go in the order that you think is going to best explain it. I do have questions already. So, and again, like I'm going to also play the audience and even myself, because I mean, I have some questions that I'd love to have you answer, and kind of poke holes in this thing, right? Because, you know, we both know we're in this space. It's like, yeah, it's too good to be true or whatever. Like, what's the downside? What are some things that can happen? Like, I've got questions and I know they're going to have questions. So we'll poke the holes. Before we do that though, yeah, go and kind of lead us through, like, what's it look like as far as Amazon as a whole?
Yeah, no problem. So first things first, it's important to mention that on Amazon, there's only one unique listing of any product on the platform. So if you search a Ryobi P1817 or whatever is often my example, there's only one of those listings on Amazon. The listing, of course, is the area where you see the buy now price, the buy now button, add to cart button, and all that. That's an Amazon listing, right? So there's only one unique listing of any item, which then you might ask yourself, well, if there's only one listing of a Ryobi P1817, how do different people make sales of that exact same item if they were able to get access to it? And the answer is that Amazon has a thing called a buy box. It's like the buy now button, the price on Amazon and all that. And what happens is that when you're on on a listing, you can literally see who is in the buy box at any one time. So it'll say ships from Amazon, sold by whoever the seller is. Let's call it, I don't know, Scott V, right? Scott V LLC, just making up a name. And you know then that anytime someone clicks buy now, whenever they're in looking at that Ryobi P1817, if Scott V, if it says sold by there, they're going to get credited with the sale if the person clicks buy now, right? So then you might also be wondering, okay, well, what happens if there's like 5 different sellers trying to sell that exact same item? What happens? And so what the answer is, there's 2 things you need to do to be able to make sales on Amazon. 1, price competitively. So you want to be within 3% up or down of whatever the buy box price is. So said in English, let's say that Ryobi was selling for $67.99, for example, right? Well, if you sold your version of that, the exact same item, of course, for $67.99, well, then you would also be competitively priced. If you were selling it for $75, you would no longer be competitive because you're too expensive. And so basically what we're doing is we are pricing competitively. And then the second thing is we're using Amazon's fulfillment services, also known as FBA. Some people think, by the way, FBA means import from China and all that. It actually doesn't. It's just a fulfillment by Amazon. And so effectively, when we get that Ryobi P1817, we're going to ship a few units of that over to Amazon's warehouse. Amazon are going to hold it in stock. And then what's going to happen is, as long as we're competitively priced and our account is healthy, throughout the day, Amazon actually rotates the seller that is in the buy box. And why do they do that? Because they want more than one seller to make sales of an item, because it encourages more people to keep on sending inventory into the platform. If only one seller was making all the sales, well, then everyone would just give up. And then Amazon, if that person ran out of stock, that item would no longer be available on Amazon. And one thing you guys probably know, Scott, you certainly know, is Amazon is the everything store. It wants to have everything. It wants to have everything in stock all the time. And some of you might be even thinking, how many items are actually sold on Amazon, right? And here is the answer. It is approximately 350 million plus individual items are sold on Amazon, which is incredible. Amazon themselves sell about 12 million different products. So 60% of the sales on Amazon are actually made by people just like you and me, third-party sellers. We sell more than Amazon do, and we make up the bulk of the different items that are actually listed on Amazon. So in terms of how you sell, how you get in front of customers, that's it. Make sure you're competitively priced. Make sure you use FBA and have the actual item, obviously, because if you don't, you can't sell it. So we can poke holes because I'm open to any question about this, Scott, because like you said, you are right. It's too many people try to make it out too good to be true. I'm certainly not here to do that. We've countless case studies of clients who've literally done this though and had a lot of success in our own account as well. So I'm happy to answer like questions on it because there will be many, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start with one is how much would you need to get started? Right. Like, so like for someone that's like, okay, I mean, if you bought the Ryobi drill and you're selling it for 60 some dollars,
Yeah.
you know, would it, you know, like how many are you going and
Yeah.
can you even do it if you have a small budget?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great question. And the answer is, yeah, you don't need a humongous budget, believe it or not. So obviously, if you went to Ryobi and you're like, hello, Ryobi, I want to open a direct account with you. All right, now we're going to need a massive budget. But remember, we're going to wholesale distributors who are authorized to be able to sell these items to people like you and me. So when we go to a distributor, often accounts will be anywhere from about $250 to about $1,000 minimum order value is what they want, right? And sometimes it can be higher now, but oftentimes that is what we see as being like the open value that they want you. Now, here's what's key, right? And a lot of people, when you're a beginner, you mightn't think about this, but it's really important is that when I'm placing an order from a supplier, I can order like for $250 or even $500, I might be able to order 5 or 10 different products from that supplier. Why? Because when I'm going to distributor, I don't have to order like 100 or 500 units of one item. I can be like, how many are in a box? And they might be like, there's 15 in a box or there's 12 in a box. I'll be like, give me a box of that, give me a box of that, give me 2 boxes of that, etc. So like we're not ordering hundreds of units per item. Now, sometimes we might go to a distributor and they might say, we do have a minimum order quantity. And the quantity, let's say it's 100. I'm just throwing out a simple example. It could be more than that. But remember again, if it was 100, well, as long as we buy 10 of those and 20 of those and 10 of those, we make up our total of 100. We still have the opportunity to buy multiple different products. Now, what's also important, Scott, I think I really want to make this point is we're only ever selling things we literally know is making money. We can see very accurately how much revenue that item is producing. We can see how many other sellers are competitive. And from there, I'm not going to say it's to the cent or to like the exact number because it just isn't, right? But what we can see is roughly how many units we could sell of an item. So for example, let's say we see a product and there's like, I'm just going to pick a simple numbers. There were 3 sellers who were competitive. And then there was other sellers too, but most of them are selling the item for a lot more. So there's 3. Let's say that item sold 1,000 units in a month for ease of calculation. So if you divided the 3 into 1,000, because they're the only competitive sellers, they could all potentially sell 333. That would make up your total of 1,000 sales in a month, right? So if we came in, we could potentially be seller number 4. So we would then take 4, because we're the 4th, and divide it into 1,000. And so if all things were equal, each seller could sell 250 units. Now I'm here to tell you something. It's not all equal. Some sellers get a higher share, some get a lower share. As your Amazon account grows in time, you'll get a bigger share, but you will get a share, right? And so the whole key to this model really is the fact that we can order small quantities in safe levels. And we're never going to hold any more than 30 days of inventory. And when we're starting, we wouldn't even hold 30 days of potential inventory because we're literally just looking to see, could we even get into that buy box? And that's what's really powerful about it.
Yeah. So, okay. And that brings up another question. So you're buying from the wholesaler. So the wholesaler is buying this bigger order and they're basically making a little bit from that. Just they're not making as much as if they were to send it in directly. And then, so my question is, who's shipping it into Amazon FBA?
Yeah, we use a prep center for that, Scott, because we don't send in directly from the distributor, the wholesale distributor, not because we're like afraid or anything like that of them, like, taking our business, because the reality is these companies are really big and they've no interest in selling on Amazon. Like, Amazon would be a small portion of their otherwise bigger business. And we go to these wholesale events, and like when they're looking for people who have these big, I don't know, chains of stores and stuff like that, right? Independent chains. So anyway, we're not worried about that. But what we do is use a prep center. And the reason for that is because, let's say we have 10 different items now in our order and we small quantities of each of them. Well, when they get to the prep center, we want to make sure like the items aren't damaged or anything like that. Because if you send damaged items into Amazon, as you'll remember, Scott, from your Amazon days, Amazon they can be strict about that. Because they want the items perfect when they go to a customer, which is great for the customer, by the way. Awesome. And so when we use a prep center, we can ensure that everything looks good. Also, we want to make sure every item is going to get labeled. So we put a label on each item. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but ultimately when we get on seller account, we get labels for items. We label up our stuff to say, these are our items. And then whenever they go into an Amazon warehouse, well, they can see all of the units that are ours, basically, and they scan those. So the prep center will do all that work. And then Amazon now, it's great because they have these preferred carriers now. So they will come to the prep center and they'll collect like the box or 3 boxes of stuff, whatever you've got. They'll bring them to the Amazon warehouse on your behalf. Like, you don't have to go and find, like, I've been doing this since 2010. So like, I used to go and find like couriers and get rates for couriers and figure out how much it was going to cost to ship it over to Amazon.
Yeah.
It's much easier now, you know?
Okay. Yeah. Cause I remember, oh gosh, cause that was a whole nother thing, right? It was like, we would get them all ready and packaged, and then we'd have to ship them in and pay the shipping on that. Not that you're not paying the shipping, but it's easier now because they're cutting out that. They're coming to the facility, picking up and then bringing, versus you shipping, which is a lot easier. So if someone wanted to get started, right? What's the timeline? And if you were talking to, like, let's not even say someone like me. Let's just say someone that said, you know what, I got like $500, I'll give this thing a go. I got $500. I'll give it a go and see how it is. What's the process look like for them to actually get up and running and get a product into Amazon?
So that's a funny question, because you won't love my answer, right? My answer would be, if someone came to me and said, I only have $500, I'd say, this probably isn't for you, right? And that's being really transparent, actually. What I would say is that you could place an order for sure. You'd have enough for that. But when you're if you're starting a new business, as you know, Scott, if you want to like set up an LLC, for example, which we would recommend you do, there's going to be a little bit of cost there. So I would say all in to set up this business, $2.5K, something like that, to get your first order, get everything set up. You're in or around that kind of money, dollars, that would be, right? So that would be what I'd say. Now at the same time, you won't have to like go, there's $2,500. It doesn't work like that. Like, you'll have some costs earlier on, then you'll place your order after a few weeks. Like, you'll probably be realistically about a month to 6 weeks before you'd be ready to place your first order, because you're a beginner. Like, you're learning the process. Like, you're learning about suppliers, and you're finding suppliers, and you're opening up accounts, you're getting their catalogs, and there's a whole process there. And we literally have a whole software where we're even able to take a catalog from a supplier, upload it to our software, and our software can even do a lot of the work for you and tell you, here's the items from the big list that are potential opportunities and all that. So I would just say, in terms of that, from startup to in stock and all going well, I'm making a bunch of sales and stuff like that. I've certainly seen it in 60 to 90 days people to do that. No, I've seen people be a lot longer too, because, their own baggage and beliefs and everything,
Sure.
how it is, right? But I've
Yeah.
seen people eat in that kind of period of time. And could you do it faster? You absolutely could, especially if you already had a company, maybe you already have an Amazon seller account. You could be up and running even quicker, but that's the usual time frame, about $2.5 grand. And also what I will say is, I've seen people in their, we've loads of these stories, someone in their first month hitting their first $10,000 in sales. Like, I've seen that many times.
Wow.
I've seen people in their first week hit their first $1,000. Now, not everybody. Again, I'm always clear about that.
Yeah.
All these things, results are never typical, because most people
No.
won't do anything. They just like
No,
take
no.
a course
Yeah.
and or whatever they do, and they just go, "I'll never do that." Whereas the
Yeah.
people who do it in our community, man, we've seen incredible stories. Like we had one guy, Elliot, over in the UK, actually, in his first year, he did like $360,000 top line revenue. I don't know his exact profit margin because I don't have his accounts, but I would imagine it was 15, 20%, somewhere like that. And this guy was a complete beginner, you know? So it's incredible what we've seen. And the reason that people get these results, look, it's because it's much easier to sell stuff that people already know. Like they see a Hot Wheels item, they know what it is. Like they don't have to be sold on it. They're probably there to buy Hot Wheels for their kid or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between this way, again, transparently, why I back in 2022 made a bit of a pivot in our education business, because I was like, you know, I love private label and it's great and everything, but let's face it, like establishing a brand from China and all that, number one, it's not for everyone. And number two, it is risky, especially if you've never had a business before. So something like this for me is way safer for a beginner. And like my goal as a person is I want to help over my career 100,000 people build a part of their full-time business online. I don't know if it'll be all with Amazon now, but that's certainly my goal as a person.
Sure.
And there's reasons why I have that target. But the reason I tell you all that is because if I'm going to do that, I need a model where a beginner can have success. And this is a great way to do it, you know?
Yeah. No, and again, I pose that question because I know that there's going to be people that are like, how much do I need? And if immediately you hear 2,500, you might be like, all right, it's not for me. And you know what? That's okay. Right? I remember when I started on Amazon, and we're talking 2013, I believe it was. Maybe 2014 was when I actually got up and running. But I think I actually placed my first order at the beginning of 2014. It's a blur, but it's in that time frame. And I remember it cost me $5,000 for my first inventory run. Okay. And in that, that was not including launching the product. So back in the day, Steven, I know you probably remember this, right? You remember Viral Launch?
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. I remember all that.
You remember Viral Launch? And then there was the other one was Zonblast. Remember Zonblast? Okay. Bringing back some good old memories, right?
These are big memories now. Yeah, these are big memories.
Yeah, so that one product that I sold, which I think I shared this, but I'm not sure, but I started with the exercise bands. You know what I mean? Like the ones that now they sell in 5s. Yeah, I started back. I mean, you know, that's old school stuff.
Yeah, it's old school. You couldn't touch those these days. Yeah,
no. But anyway, so I started with those and I did my first launch. So the way it works, just so people know, I want to kind of give people like what it was and kind of like this model is like why it's so much like safer and better. I dropped $5,000 on the inventory from China, right? Shipped it in. Then from there, I had to obviously get the business stuff set up. So let's just say another $1,000. Because I was in New York at the time. So doing an LLC in New York is way different than it is here in South Carolina. It's more expensive. But then the other thing was, and then I had to launch the product. And to launch the product, I went through the service Zonblast. And the way that worked is you would basically pay them and then they would blast it to their email list of people that would get a discount code.
Yeah.
And I sold 140 units in about 10 minutes, right? 140 units. Cool. And what did that do? It shot us up in the algorithm and then it took off. And from there, that product went on to do that year, $300,000. First year did 300K, a little over. And then it went on to do $1 million. Just the bands, right?
Yeah.
That was it.
Awesome.
And that was my model. But then, I spent a lot more money, with inventory and had a whole bunch. My point is this. I probably started that with about 7,500 because you got to remember those 140 units I paid for. They're about $5 a pop. Then you got FBA fees, you got all that stuff, right? And the service, I think they charged like $1,000 or $1,200 to do that blast, right?
Yeah, it would have been.
So you know what I mean? I probably was in over 10. You know what I mean?
And then here's the thing though, but that worked out really well, actually. Like, it became a real success for you. And obviously it started a really good career for you for a period of time as well. And you did amazing things with your podcast. Also, it was a great investment. That being said though, even if it was a great investment, a lot of people, I remember someone said, let's say someone comes to you and they say, oh, like there's this new business I have and it only costs $5,000 to start it or whatever, but you have 5 grand in your bank account, like that's a big risk, right? Whereas if you had 50 grand and you need five, well, it's like, it's not that big of a risk, guys. Like, yeah, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, it's 5K. Whereas with what we're talking about, something you brought up, I didn't actually mention, but thanks for reminding me, and that is we actually don't do really any advertising with this at all. Sometimes you do like a little bit, like a tiny bit, but it's like maybe less than 1% of
Wow.
our revenue, but like it's tiny. And the reason for that is because, look, if we're selling again, like going to the Hot Wheels product or whatever, Ryobi with the examples we've used today,
Or Lego. Lego's another big one.
Lego. Yeah, I mean, actually, one example I have in a training that I give is like it's a Harry Potter Lego set,
Oh, wow.
and this thing alone, that one item was doing, I think, nearly 300 grand a month on Amazon. So like that one single listing on Amazon, if it annualized out the same way, which it may or may not, you could be talking $2 or $3 million for the one thing, a year. And that's like, and that's like only one of, I don't know how many Lego products there actually are. There's thousands and thousands. And so like the thing here is there's no real advertising. And also the other thing I wanted to mention is, let's talk for real and say you bought 10 different items and you bought 10 units of each. Just throwing out some simple mathematics, right? 100 units of something or other. Now, let's say two of them just, you could not get into the buy box no matter what you did, right? You were pricing competitively, you're doing everything I told you to do, and for whatever reason, maybe you made a bit of a mistake or more sellers came in or something happened, right? Well, if you bought 20 units, then we're talking, because two of them didn't work, and let's say you paid $5 a unit, well, you're talking $100 of a mistake, right? So it's not like a mistake like that will not put you out of business. Whereas,
Right.
with a launch like yours, you could have put 7 or 10 grand, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work. You're just like,
100%. Yeah.
I have to go to New York City with my exercise bands, sell them on the streets. I got to get rid of them somewhere, right?
I mean, that exactly what you're saying is 100% true. And even hearing like more of, like you said, like worst case, like if you had, 10 Ryobi drills, you probably put them up on eBay and sell them, or sell them at like Facebook Marketplace or something. You know what I mean? Like you're going to probably be able to get rid of them. The difference is like I put all my chips on the one hand, versus here, it's like we can disperse it. Like number one, you're on a bigger platform, but you're also going on products that are already being searched for. It's not going off of your brand. It's going off of someone else's brand, which is pretty incredible. I see this as this could be a full-time, I think for sure, but I also think it could be a really great part-time or a side thing, another
100%.
revenue stream. Like if someone like you and I, like we aren't just doing one thing, we have a few different things going on. And I just think like it definitely makes sense. And obviously you'd have to dig in deeper to see like, okay, so what's required time-wise? It's like, how much time am I going to have to spend on this? What if I only have 15 hours a week, And I know that you said you have another, a training that you've done. And maybe what we'll do is we'll have you do one of them for us. And maybe we can do that.
Sure. That'd be great.
You know what I mean? And maybe we can dig deeper into this and you can kind of show us, like the tools that you're using or the tool and, like just the process, because obviously there's only so much we can cover here in like 30, 40 minutes. But I'm definitely interested in something like that. But yeah, I mean, so what else should someone know or even just understand about this before we wrap up?
Yeah, 'cause a lot of people kind of like would look at our results or whatever, and see we did 1.4 million there last year, 1.3 the year before that. They'll say, "All right, but like, what's the profit?" And I often laugh because when people are beginners, as I was not so long ago, I know that's the big focus, and it kind of has to be as well, though, right? Because like you have to be able to make profit in order to be able to draw an income from a business, so it makes sense. But with this particular model, like we were mentioning private label a few minutes ago, and no doubt about it, if you put in the full risk and you imported your own item, you would make more money for every sale you make. Absolutely, you would, because it's your brand, right? But at the same time, you're taking in a much bigger risk. With something like this, then our profit margin is less than it would be if we were selling our own brand. But we're talking 15 to 20% of the sales price is our approximate profit after all expenses are paid. So if you did 10 grand, you could be like $1,500, whatever, right? To 2 grand, you could be talking about in profit. Okay, that'll be after all everything's paid. And so some people, they get a little like I don't know. Some people get like disappointed. What? It's 15 or 20%. Like, why is it not like a gazillion percent that it's down to? Unfortunately,
Mhm.
how a lot of people online, they talk a lot of nonsense when it comes to online business. Like, people try to tell you, like, oh, affiliate marketing, like you just make gazillions of dollars or whatever. But the reality is that they don't tell you is that like there's a lot of advertising costs that you
Yeah.
need to put in to have people who even want to come and see your stuff and will actually maybe buy something from your recommendation and whatever. And so with this model, like, I mean, it's a really good profit margin. Also considering you can be in stock in like a week or two, right?
Mhm.
Whereas again, with private label and traditional selling, it's months. It has to
Oh,
get
it's
produced.
months. It was
All
3
that,
months. It was 3 months from the time that I placed my order until I got my stuff in. So I was sitting, I shipped off 5 grand waiting to get a return.
yeah, but dude, like nowadays it's better, but like during COVID, even like it was longer. It could have been double that. There could have been 6 months waiting for your items. So
Yeah.
this is something that's it is very safe. Like, and sometimes that can sound like I don't know, like BS, right? But really, it isn't. Like when you consider the fact you're selling stuff that you literally know is making sales, you can see it. It's just so much more achievable. And like we've got all kinds of people who've been in our community. Like one story I often share, we have a client called Casey. She's a mother of five. She's a stay-at-home mother of five who homeschools, just stacking it on there. And she's a very busy woman, and she is doing this and she's doing 10, 20 grand a month, something like that in revenue. And she has literally, we have a video with her. She came to Ireland to one of our events a couple of years ago. And she said on the video, do you know, I would be doing 100 grand or more a month if I had the time. But I am so, she said, like, I have 3 hours a week or something. She said, I have no time whatsoever. And
Yeah,
she's
that's great.
doing it to stay in her community, active, talking. And I guess the reason I say that is because people talk about time. We all look, there's all those excuses. I have them too. But with this one, if you really want to start something alongside your Etsy business, or maybe you're not doing Etsy and you're looking for something that's really achievable, this is a great model to at least consider. And if we do that training, I'll be able to show you guys results of students, our own. I'll be able to show you how we do all this stuff in really good detail. And then you can sort of say, yeah, this looks good. This is something I want to do. Or you want to know something, Scott? Thank you for putting this in front of me and telling me why I don't want to do it. That's equally as valuable as knowing this is something I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this actually reminds me a lot of like retail arbitrage. Remember back in the day, the retail arbitrage, the problem with retail arbitrage, and I said this all along, I think it's a great thing for like someone that doesn't want to spend a lot of money, whatever. The
Yeah.
problem is if you find a winner, you can't go get more of the product, right? You went into Walmart, you did a couple scans, you go, oh, here's some Hot Wheels. I can go ahead and list them on there. You get on the listing, do all that stuff, but then you can't find them again, right? This here, what you're saying is once you find a supplier, you can pretty much, whether you buy a bigger quantity or keep rebuying, but they're
Yeah.
probably going to carry that because they're a direct line into that bigger brand.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes they do run out of stocks, and sometimes there's different things as well. So sometimes you could have like a product's end of line, and so they might sell it. They might have a big volume of it, but they're not going to have it again. And so we had one that was like a Shark, that brand. They're like vacuum cleaners, and we did like nearly 20 grand sales of it or whatever, but we didn't get it again because it was just like an end of line thing and that. So you
Yeah,
have things like that as well.
sure.
But for the vast majority of items that we're looking at, we get, in many cases a year, sometimes more than a year of selling out of the item. And one thing I didn't say is our account that we did $1.4 million last year, and we'll share where we are this year as well as if we do a training. Like we have about 5 suppliers in that service that business. We don't have like 100 because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm gonna need like tons of suppliers, but you really
No, no,
don't.
no.
Well, you might need 3 suppliers to have a really good part-time business. And sure enough, as time goes on, you might move on and add in new suppliers. But just to say, like, some suppliers have thousands of lines, like thousands of items, and not everyone's going to be a winner for you. But what I'm saying is, like, you can go kind of deeper into a catalog with a supplier and find more and more stuff. And what also happens is, as you start to work with a supplier more often, you'll get better credit terms often. So like they might give you more time to pay back your stuff, which again, China, There's no such thing as credit terms. You pay it
No.
all. Pay it now. Whereas
Yeah.
with this one, actually, you will get often 30 days. I mean, your first order, you might get any credit now because they don't know you. When they start to get to know you, they give you 30 days. They might even give you 60 days. But also, I'm not telling you to do this because I cannot give you financial advice.
Sure.
But what we do is we use our credit cards, and then we can actually pay for the items with a credit card. So if we have 30 days credit and then we pay with a credit card, it gives us another 30 days. And I'm not saying this happens every time, but there are situations where we'll have sold out all of our inventory before we've even had to like physically pay out for items. Now, just to be clear, I don't want you to think I need no money whatsoever because I'm going to use, made up money or whatever to grow the business. But I'm just telling you, like, it's a quirk of this model that you wouldn't have with private label. Arbitrage, you kind of would have it, but you kind of wouldn't as well. So it is a very unique model, and it's an old model. Like I started with this like many years ago. So it's not like the idea is new, but the way we do it is new, and it's really working. And I mean, I do believe this will be around for like a long time, many more years. And there's things that we're even doing. We're testing different ways of doing it as well, where we actually do go direct to brands and stuff like that, which we will be bringing to the table more and more. But it's just a great way to go, just to get your start. And as I say, like, you'll see our students, we got people doing phenomenally well with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool too that you brought up that, because immediately you're like, oh, I got to if I want to sell 100 products, I got to reach out to 100 different wholesalers, when in actuality, you're going to find a good one, right? Let's say we find one good one, and then they have a catalog with 1,000 products in there. I have access now to 1,000 products.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that.
They'll give you a referral. They'll even, hey, do you know anybody else that's in a similar business that's like, and they'll even refer people to you. There's all kinds of stuff that we teach that makes the process of getting to your next suppliers simpler. And, we do everything we can to make it as simple as possible. But like anything, like building an online business takes effort, right? It does. If you're on Etsy, Amazon, it takes effort. But what we have here, it's like, I often say in closing here, we have to wrap up, right? But it's like, if you go to Starbucks and you want to buy a Starbucks license, you're going to pay like best part of $300,000, maybe $1 million to get that license, just to say like Starbucks, whatever products, so you buy all the products from Starbucks and whatnot, right? But with Amazon, you can literally look like Amazon with this business model, because when you use FBA to the customer, you are Amazon, because you got all the same services and you got all the same brand. I can't think of the word, not protection, but you literally look just like Amazon. And so thinking about that, it's like, how much would it cost you to get Amazon's name behind you? And the answer, it could be, was it $5,000? Is it 10 grand? Is it $500? It's like, no, it's like $40 for an Amazon professional seller account. And you effectively like become Amazon in the eyes of a customer, which is unreal,
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. I think the word you were looking for is authority.
Thank you.
You get the authority of Amazon. Everyone trusts them. I know myself right now, and I don't think I'm alone, but it's like, whenever I'm going to go buy something, I'm always going to look there first, because I just don't feel like going 20 minutes maybe. And if I don't need it today, I mean, in some cases I could get it. I can order it now. I can get it tonight. But in most cases, I'm definitely going to get it the next day. So I'm a diehard purchaser on Amazon because you know what I mean? Because it's convenience, and you trust. And if I've ever had a problem, like I literally just bought a treadmill, right? I literally just bought a treadmill for my wife for Valentine's Day. What a nice guy, right? So it shows up on my or actually before it arrived, I got a thing saying like it might be delayed. And I never get that, right? It's an oversized 200-pound thing, right? And they kept me posted, but they said, if you want to cancel, just go right here. Or if you want to, buy it another time, go here. So they gave me options. Like, I could literally one click, I could just cancel my order and I wouldn't have to pay for it. And they've already started shipping it. It's already sitting like 20 minutes from me, right? But because it was delayed, they're like, eh. So to your point, Amazon's got this major like authority that we trust, right? And then you piggyback off of a brand. So the brand that I bought was NordicTrack, another brand. Right now, if I was a wholesaler of NordicTrack, I'd make money on that sale. And the rest is history, like we talked about. So that's in the sense of what you're saying is like, we're piggybacking off of really two different things. One, brand of the product, and then brand of Amazon.
Exactly. And, That's something that just hasn't been, hasn't been available previously to doing something like this. You can start your own Shopify store, selling those treadmills if you like, but it's going to be really difficult to get customers. How are you going to get them? You have to advertise, and your margins aren't going to be big enough. It's going to be very difficult. Whereas something like this, it's possible because there's 300 million customers on there, and there's 2 billion monthly visits to Amazon. It's ridiculous.
Insane. All right. I know we can keep going. We're probably going to have to continue this on. Maybe I can get you to do like a workshop or something. We'll leave the information in the description. Check it out. So that way there you can see, how you can get more information here from Steven and what they're doing over there. But I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing this. This is definitely awesome. And it was something that I wasn't even really aware of. And you're like, hey, I got to show you something. And you showed me your dashboard, like 100 grand for that month or 100,000 plus. And I'm like, what the heck? And then you started telling me about it, and here we are. So I want to thank you, and so we'll try to get you to do something. I'm sure we'll get you to do a little.
Sure, you can twist my rubber arm, as they say, right? No problem. No problem.
All right, Steven. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Scott.